No. No, you should not lower your standards to give yourself an easier time dating. I promise it will backfire 9 times out of 10 if you try it. I thought this was an important question for a video because I couldn't believe, in this poll, a quarter of my audience actually think it's the optimal way to go about their dating lives. 26% believes you should date down either by 1 or multiple points. Now, before we get into the reasons for why it's bad, first I think we need to answer why men are tempted to do it in the first place. My answer is evolution. Just quickly, how many of you can relate to this? You've been experiencing a rather lackluster dating life. It's been months since you've had a woman give you attention. That's if you've received any at all. So, you see it as a potential solution to lower your standards to a degree of attractiveness way below your own looks level. And, seen as almost half of you fall into the category of never having any experience, with another 20% only having it in the last 2 years, it may seem reasonable to take this measure, lower your standards, so at last you can remove this weight off your back and carry on with your life freely once it's been done. So, probably a lot of you can relate to this, and if you don't, you likely have at least some point in your life. Now, the reason you end up thinking all this is because you believe lowering your standards will alleviate a lack of fulfillment in the short term. And how does this relate to evolution? Well, the way I see it is men are hardwired to pursue romantic interest from the opposite sex. And if you aren't receiving anything from these pursuits, then you are not fulfilling your biological imperative to pass on your genes. Therefore, your mind tries to take a shortcut by lowering your standards in order to increase your dating prospects in the short term. Additionally, I also believe there is an element of self-regulation going on. If you approach 10 girls and they all reject you, your mind might have you believe you're shooting too high. Therefore, you could feel this pressure to reduce your standards to approach women your unconscious believes are more on your level. So, that's the evolution for why I believe a lot of men try dating down. There's also one more theory which I don't think is true and will simultaneously allow me to conclude my first negative. This theory states men should deliberately lower their standards in order to increase the chance they'll have control in a relationship. The idea is that by dating an unattractive woman, she'll realise she can't do any better and she'll be grateful for what she's been able to achieve. You, as the boyfriend, will then be able to use this as leverage to have your way in the relationship. Now, although this theory sounds promising, I don't think it holds water. Here's why. There is a massive disparity in terms of value between what an unattractive woman can expect to get in a relationship and what she can get purely sexually. However, a lot of women confuse the two, and there's this grey area which can cause her level of entitlement to always float to the higher level. Here's an example. Say if a slightly below average woman gets approached by a man a couple points above her. She doesn't know yet whether 1, he wants to take her seriously and give commitment, or 2, just wants to sleep with her. 99 times out of 100, the reality is he just wants to sleep with her. But ironically, 99 times out of 100, she believes he was looking for commitment. Therefore, whichever his intentions truly were didn't actually matter, because she's still walking away from the interaction thinking this man who's above her finds her attractive. And if he finds her attractive, it means she is also attractive and on his level. Anyway, what this disparity means is whatever leverage you think you'll achieve by dating a less attractive woman, it all essentially gets nullified because as she gets approached by guys 2 points more attractive than her who are only interested in short term, you are seen as a worse option in comparison. Therefore, unless you're willing to date down 3, 4, or even 5 points so this guy is no longer in the picture, only then will you be able to safely say you're the most attractive guy that will stoop this low. Another point for why dating down for the sake of power is a terrible idea is because there is no correlation between a woman's attractiveness and her loyalty. Here's the reality of modern dating. In order for a woman to entice one man to be intimate with her, no matter how unattractive she is, there will always be at least one guy that is willing to do the job. In other words, there are next to no barriers for the woman to partake in it. Now yes, a woman who's more attractive might get hit on more and have more opportunities to be disloyal, but her attractiveness isn't the lowest denominator. The lowest denominator is how the woman feels. And if a woman wants to cheat, she will do it, no matter how unattractive she is. It's never going to get to a point where a woman wants to cheat but can't because there are no men interested in her. No matter what day of the week it is, there will always be guys willing and ready. So, as you can see, this idea that guys should date down in order to garner leverage in their relationship and prevent her from cheating doesn't hold water. In reality, all you are doing is self-sabotaging your own happiness and relationship potential. The next reason you shouldn't deliberately date down is because in the relationship you will constantly think in the back of your mind you can do better. This affects you as you may become jealous if you see your guy friends who you are on the same level with who have more attractive girlfriends. And it also affects her as you're unlikely to try your hardest when you know she's not the best you can do. Beyond this, it'll affect the physical aspects. You'll feel ashamed as you've more or less conceded to the fact of how hard dating is by taking the easy route. In other words, your own conscience will make you feel guilty of taking the low roads. No one gets a sense of accomplishment from completing the tutorial of a video game. The real validation comes from beating something that was hard and took many attempts. Furthermore, you will also have to conceal the way you feel from your partner. Just imagine, what would happen if your girlfriend ever found out that pretty much the only reason you got into a relationship with her was because you couldn't find anyone else? You spent ages trying with the girls you thought were on your level. That never worked, so instead you went for the option who was 10th, 15th, or 20th in the queue. If you ever make her aware of this, it can only end in two ways. Either she feels immense anger or immense emotion. If she's low self-esteem, she might cling on for a little while, but if she has high self-esteem, she'll know it's right to walk away from you. Now, the final reason you should never date down deliberately, and this may be the most important, is because you might end up in a morally challenging position where you want to break up with her in order to get the dating life you think you deserve, but cannot do so as you're already tied down. In essence, sooner or later you'll be presented only two options. 1. Lifelong dissatisfaction, or 2. Gaslighting in order to break up. Expanding on point 1, you'll feel lifelong dissatisfaction because you've signed up to stay with her indefinitely as you think you're doing her a favour. You know you've not reached your full potential and there's no easy way out of it. You've cashed in your chips too early. And expanding on point 2, in order to break up with her, it'll require you to do so out of the blue and arbitrarily, which makes you look like an illogical idiot. This is because for you to split up with her when she hasn't done anything wrong, you'll need to invent reasons for why you're justified anyway. That's gaslighting. And out of these two options, this second one is likely to go down very poorly because if she has any sense of spelling out logic, she'll figure out what you're claiming is being completely fabricated. And the inevitable conclusion she'll discover is that somewhere over the course of the relationship, you've moved the goalpost to decide she's no longer good enough for you. Even though she was at the beginning, otherwise you wouldn't have asked for the relationship in the first place. Anyway, after all that is said and done, I think the safest option is clearly to date your looks match. It'll ensure you don't get blown out the water by approaching girls who are too high above, and you won't face the dire consequences from dating women below like I outlined in this video. Unfortunately though, this still leads to one more unsettled question, which is, how do I know if I'm actually approaching my looks match and shooting my shot with those within my league? Because it's very possible a man thinks he's approaching women on his level, but in reality he's being completely delusional with who he thinks he has a chance with. So, to provide tailored answers to this question, I found the solution by selling face ratings on Fiverr for a fiver, which is an extremely cheap way to know where you stand, so you can then adjust how you should be calibrating yourself in the dating market. This has been a very popular service. I've sold several thousand of these and have 3,000 5-star reviews. There are also other packages available, so if you're interested in an explanation of your strengths and weaknesses and how you can improve, you can upgrade to a higher package. If this has interested you, go to the description now and click on the first link. Other than that, if you've enjoyed, make sure you press the like button on your way out and leave any thoughts you have in the comments below, as it all helps the YouTube algorithm.